Welcome back to another Overreaction Monday video. We are coming at you on Monday after week 14. Some crazy games happened. Loved everything. And right now, a lot of fans, as we're getting closer and closer to playoffs, are overreacting about their team's wins or losses, and they're getting freaked out for the playoff picture as we're getting closer and closer. But AJ, I think this is one of the few Mondays where you probably feel cool, relaxed, maybe after the Niners win. I think this has been one of the few weeks that you are actually feeling a little bit better. How are you feeling right now, man?
Few weeks. This is the first week of the season that I started off like this, right? Yeah. Sat down and I was like, okay, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. It's the Bears. I don't give a damn at this point of the season, right? The Niners are playing. It's Sunday. I want to relax. This is the first game I was able to relax from start to finish. That my blood pressure wasn't through the roof, where my wife didn't have 911 on speed dial for me. Okay, so yeah, I enjoyed this game. Super happy the Niners came out with a dub. But thanks for asking.
Of course. We're not going to talk about the Niners too much because, unfortunately, they're looking like they're out of the playoff picture unless something crazy happens. Same thing with the Bears. So we won't talk about that game too much, unfortunately, AJ. But let's go into our first overreaction. I'm sorry. Let's get into our first overreaction. And this is going to be my overreaction. And AJ, this might be your first time you hearing me say this because this is the first time I'm saying this entire season. All right?
Okay.
I feel like that the Eagles are more of a threat than the Detroit Lions.
Get out of it. Dude, that is the most biased take I've ever heard. Are you kidding me?
Listen, I know it's biased. Because I'm a Packer fan. I hate the Lions. Yes, and I'm not saying the Packers are like with the Detroit or the Eagles. I think we're a tier below, unfortunately, right now, because the Packers have gotten beat by the Detroit Lions twice this year. I can't really stand on my toes and say that Packers with them, but I think the Eagles. Okay, get back in here. I think the Eagles are on par or better. I think they're better than the Lions because of where they are in the season. Okay, the Detroit Lions defense, they started off hot. Aiden Hutchinson, all of the defensive linemen, etc., playing great, but recently they've got a lot of injuries. Aiden Hutchinson's hurt. Out for the entire season. Their defense is not as good as the Eagles' defense are. In my opinion, I think, yes, their Lions offense are more, they're more highlighty. They have a lot of more, on paper stuff. But I think the Eagles' offense can match them toe for toe. And I think the Eagles' defense is clearly better than the Lions' defense. That's why I think the Eagles are more of a threat as we get closer into playoff season.
Okay, all right. I need the help from the chat here. Okay, in the comment section, please roast this man over here because he's obviously still bitter about the game with Detroit. I get it. It was a close game. It is what it is. But did we not just watch the Philadelphia Eagles play this Sunday? Did we not just see them almost lose to the Carolina Panthers? Are we seriously saying that Bryce Young is on the up and up, that he's coming back? Yes, he does look a little bit better, but the Panthers were one Xavier Legette catch away from winning that game. He drops that catch in the fourth quarter, killed him. He catches that, the Panthers more than likely win the game. For you to say that the Philadelphia Eagles are that and a bag of chips, yes, I get it. They look like the total opposite Eagles from the end of last year. They have their act together. They're playing together, right? They're winning games. They have a great record. Yes, let's do that. But to say that they are ahead of the Lions here all year long, say what you want about the Thanksgiving game. All year long, the Lions have looked like a dominant team. They look like one of the only teams in the NFL that is well put together, that has everything going for them. Yes, I know the Lions are going through injuries. And yes, I know the Lions have let up in the fourth quarter the past few games. But the Detroit Lions are still that hard-nosed team that ends up getting wins. There's a difference between teams like the Lions and, let's say, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, they're getting the wins. Have they looked dominant all season? No, they haven't. But they're getting the wins. They're a great team. The Lions, they're a great team. They're getting the wins, and they also look dominant. For me, the Philadelphia Eagles, they keep week by week exposing their weak points, and teams are going to figure that out, especially comes playoffs. This is the Carolina Panthers we're talking about. They almost lost to the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, the Lions almost lost to the Green Bay Packers, but that is the Green Bay Packers. That's a team that we talked about them going to the playoffs since the beginning of the season. Totally different. Say, like I said, say what you want about the Thanksgiving game, but that's Thanksgiving where teams come out to play. That's all I'm saying. I think you're way out of pocket here. I think the Lions are clear-cut number one team in the NFL.
If it was the Thanksgiving game, I'm gonna have to bring it up. All right, they almost lost to the Bears. If Matt Eberflus had just managed the clock better at the end of the game, if Caleb Williams had managed the clock better at the end of the game, and they've gotten a field goal, it would have gone to overtime, and the game would have been even closer than that. If you want to talk about the Eagles almost losing to the Panthers, it's the same thing in my opinion. Both of those teams are bad. It was a closer game for the Lions. In my opinion, the Eagles were playing their best ball at the end of the season right now. Yes, it was 8-point game, whatever, to the Panthers. I expected the Eagles to win by 14. I took them the over for that. I still think they're playing better ball right now than the Lions are, and I think they're going to do that even more into the late end of the season.
Well, of course, time would only tell.
Yes.
Right? Both teams, I could say it's a lock that both teams are making the playoffs.
Oh, for sure.
And there's a pretty good chance.
They both clinch, so yeah.
They both have a pretty good chance to play each other. Now, I don't know if the Philadelphia Eagles could overcome, what they couldn't last year, but they look a lot better than what they did last year. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot of close games, but I think time will tell moving forward.
We will see, but yeah, it's both of these teams are some of the best teams in the NFL right now. Like, hats off to both of them. They're going to do great. We'll have to see how it ends up. Let's move on to my Nets overreaction, AJ. After what I saw this week and looking at the remaining schedules coming up, I think the winner of the NFC West, which I know is dear to your heart, is going to be the Los Angeles Rams. All right. So right now, at this current point, the Seahawks are currently leading that division at 8-5. Something I did not expect, especially how they went on downhill for a while. But now they've won, I think, 4 or 5 straight currently, and they're looking like a really good team. The Rams are right behind them at 7-6. And then trailing them is the Cardinals at 6-7 and the 49ers at 6-7 as well. I hate to say it, but I think Cardinals and 49ers are unfortunately out of this race, but it's totally possible that both of them could technically win this division as well if the Seahawks and the Rams falter. All right, not counting you guys out fully, but it's a long shot at this point. You have to admit that. But right now, the remaining schedule for the Seahawks is they got the Packers coming up on Sunday Night Football. Tough game. Then they got the Vikings after that. Tough game. Then they go to the Bears. They should be able to win that game. And then they finish off their season. Seahawks versus Rams, most likely for the division title. I think the Rams have an easier roadmap compared to the Seahawks with 49ers Nets on Thursday Night Football, which hopefully that's a good game. But I think right now, Rams are going to beat the 49ers. You're going to refute me on that, probably. Then they go against the Jets, which is an easier game. Jets already are called it for the season. They've been eliminated from the playoffs. Then they go to Cardinals, which divisional game should be close, but right now I think the Rams are a better team. And then they finish off the same way as the Seahawks against the Seahawks, most likely for the division title. I think with how the Rams just looked against the Bills, yet one of the reasons why they were able to win that game is because they got a block punt, returned it for a touchdown, which helped them in the scoring, obviously. But that Rams offense looked great. Puka looked great. Kupp looked great. That offense is firing on all cylinders. Defense, obviously, there's a lot of things to be worried about, but that Rams offense is looking great right now. Now, I'm going to hand the mic over to you, obviously, AJ, because you are more of an expert on the NFC West than I am, obviously, because you're a fan of the team in there. But what is your thoughts of me saying the Rams are going to win this division?
It's not surprising. And at this point in time, I actually see that as well. I don't want to put up too much disrespect to the Seattle Seahawks. They're playing well. Going to the Arizona Cardinals, that's where I like to start off. I've been talking about this since the beginning of the season, right? The Arizona Cardinals are not that good. They're not that great of a team. They get wins. Good. You can say what you want because they beat the 49ers. It is what it is. Should have gone that way. Whatever. The Arizona Cardinals are not a good team. They can't get the ball out to their players. And you could call it with Kyler Murray. You could call it with the offensive line being sucky. Yeah, you could call it with the offensive play calling. The defense, the team is not good. I expected this win from the Seattle Seahawks. Moving to the Seattle Seahawks are a slightly above par team. I'm going to say that. Yes, the Niners Seahawks 1-1 this year. Their biggest issue is their quarterback play. It's Geno Smith. I don't think Geno Smith is all that great. And I think Seattle Seahawks fans know that as well. I've talked to a lot of Seattle Seahawks fans, especially live on TikTok. They tell me Geno Smith is a problem. Geno Smith is a problem. And I see it. It is what it is. They have an extremely talented roster. The offensive line is getting healthier. Or they got healthier. They look good. Defense looks pretty solid. It's still young, but Geno Smith tends to be the issue, and I think that's going to be their roadblock as far as moving as high as they can compared to a team like the Los Angeles Rams. And yes, I know what you're going to say. I might talk about the Niners, how they could beat the Rams. Personally, between you and I, Reed, just between us, okay, I don't want the Niners to win out. It would be great. I would love the Niners to win out. I would. But do I really want them to win out and make the playoffs with half our roster out for the rest of the season? For what? What do we do? I'm all up.
Are you wanting to tank?
No. Okay, hear me out. I don't want to tank. I'm against tanking.
Yeah.
I want the Niners to play the best they can. But if they lose their games, they lose their games.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
If the Niners go out there and they play the best they can and they win their games, good for them. I'm glad to make the playoffs. I'm happy. But really, realistically, what are we looking at here? You know, with the Niners missing all these players. Rams are completely healthy. I do feel like the Rams will win Thursday Night Football. Of course, I would put my money on the Niners, and I would get a lot of hate from the chat. I get it from a lot of Niners fans. It is what it is, but I'm trying to be as unbiased as I can be. Right? The Rams look great. They have a great head coach. Check. They have a veteran, smart, talented quarterback. Check that off. They have a bell cow running back who scores a touchdown almost every single game, has not gotten injured. Check. They have a great wide receiver. Cross that out because they got two great wide receivers. They're just loaded, right? Their main issue is their defense, right? But their defense isn't worse than anyone else in the division. By far the worst defense is Arizona. Their defense ain't worse than Seattle. It ain't worse than the Niners, right? So the defense can help them at least make it to the top of their division, which I think they will, because yes, they have an easier road leading to the last game of the season, while the Seahawks have a much tougher road starting off with the Green Bay Packers. So I don't think that last game will determine who's going to be the top of their division. I think by that time, the Rams will secure their spot as top of their division. Okay. Of course, Seahawks can get some wins throughout the way. Rams can lose some games throughout the way. Maybe the Niners upset, but we don't know. But yes, I do agree that the Rams will lead the division.
All right. Well, only time will tell with that one, but you know how these playoff races go at the end of every single year. There's always that team that surprises us, comes from the bottom, and comes from the top rope, and then takes out the team you thought was going to be a shoo-in for it. So can't wait for these end of regular season matchups that are going to determine so much for us. But still everybody's game, especially with how tight that division is. But I think the Rams will definitely win, as like you said. Let's move on to the other side of that game of the Rams and Bills. Let's talk about the Bills and Josh Allen for a little bit, okay? Yes, the Bills lost this game 44-42, but Josh Allen looked like an absolute monster in that game. Let me tell you some of his stats here, okay?
Okay.
He went 22 for 37, not the best completion ratio, but 342 yards, threw for 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He then carried the ball 10 times for 82 yards, averaging 8.2 basically, and some of those were little quarterback sneaks, rushing for 3 touchdowns. This is the first time in NFL history a quarterback has thrown 3 passing touchdowns with also 3 rushing touchdowns. First time in NFL history a quarterback has ever done that. This guy looked absolutely incredible out there. He's everything we've talked about him in the past of how he's a playmaker, a gunslinger, etc. Without the interceptions now. He's been able to, I forget off the top of my head how many interceptions he has on the entire season, but is not a lot. I'm trying to pull it up right now, but 5 interceptions this season. 5. That's really great from Josh Allen compared to how we were the past few years with Josh Allen. I think he's currently playing his best ball. I think he's in the conversation of the MVP candidate. I think Lamar is currently winning that right now, but I think Josh Allen is in the conversation for sure. But this Buffalo Bills team, yes, they lost this game to the Rams, who looked really good in this game. But if anything, I feel even better about the Bills after this loss. How are you feeling about the Bills right now, AJ?
A lot of the same notes as the Rams, right? As far as defense ain't horrible, but it could get them there. And yeah, we always see that Lamar Jackson's always going to be in the MVP candidate race or whatnot. And personally, I feel like Josh Allen has always been in the shadow of the Kansas City Chiefs. And it sucks because the Kansas City Chiefs seem to be the guys who stop the Buffalo Bills year in, year out. But we should give our roses to Josh Allen. At the beginning of the season, who was in on the Bills? I didn't like the situation of the Bills. They lost 11 starters. They lost 11 starters going into the season. He lost his number 1 wide receiver.
And number 2.
And number 2 wide receiver.
Yep.
And Josh Allen looks incredible. This guy's a stud. He's always looked incredible, right? But this year, it looks like he put it on high gear where he's lowering his interceptions this year, where he's known to throw a lot of interceptions, right? I think this is amazing. I'm so happy for Josh Allen. I'm so happy for the Bills. A little sneak peek alert. I actually have the Bills and Lions Super Bowl. I'll love to see that. And I think the Bills fans, Josh Allen, they're well-deserving of that. I think they deserve a chance at the Super Bowl, which I do feel like they do have that this year. I think this is a great team all around. I think it's great coaching. And I think Josh Allen's just playing out of his mind. For sure, needs to be one of those top candidates for MVP.
I really like it. Yeah. The AFC race for the playoffs is going to be wild, in my opinion, with the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs, all on the top there. Some other teams sprinkled in there, but those guys are looking like the top dogs currently, and it's going to be really awesome to watch these playoffs. NFC, I think the same scenario, really. Last year, you kind of knew Chiefs, Niners all the way from the beginning that it was going to be those two. This year, I feel like it's wide open. I think everyone's saying Lions on the NFC. I'm not fully sold on them, even though I know they're the best chance currently. But it's going to be really wild at the end of the season. But Josh Allen is definitely the quarterback to finally put the Bills over the edge, hopefully, and be able to beat the Chiefs, beat the Ravens, and be able to go to his first Super Bowl. And who knows, maybe win it as well. We'll have to see. But we've been talking about some good quarterback play for a little bit here. I want to go start talking about some bad quarterback play, all right? And let me just read out some stats for you. The past 4 weeks, okay? And this quarterback, after you hearing these stats, AJ, I'm going to ask you, should you start this player and continue starting him, or should you bench this player, okay?
Okay.
All right, so we got the past 4 weeks, 306 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, okay? Not horrible, not great. The next week, 173 yards, 1 interception, okay? Not good. After that, 245 yards, 4 interceptions. Oof, that's a really bad game. 2 of those were pick sixes. And then this past week, 344 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So past 4 games, 0 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, all resulting in losses for your team. Should this quarterback be benched?
I've asked for that quarterback to be benched.
Okay.
I've seen those stats. I lived through those stats.
Oh.
Okay, I absolutely hate it. We're talking about Jimmy G, right?
No, we're not talking about Jimmy G. We're talking about Kirk Cousins, the quarterback of the Falcons right now.
Jimmy G has very similar stats there, my friend.
Oh my
That is extremely scary. And you might be saying, oh, this guy's out of control. No, look it up. Look it up. I just looked it up to make sure that the stats are legit. They're just like it. All right. Because he's talking. I'm like, this reminds me of somebody. As a fan who's had a quarterback like that with a lesser name, absolutely get the freaking guy sat down, especially if you have a rookie that you drafted early in the draft, right? That you drafted after you gave this guy, this is why they're not going to do it. After you gave this guy a 4-year contract worth, how much was it?
It was like 40 some per year. Is it 50 per year?
It's a 50 mil signing bonus.
I have to look it up.
Wow, dude. This is just insane. I don't know. I could have read that wrong, but a huge contract that you give this guy, and then you draft
45 million per year.
45 mil per year. And you draft a guy super early. It just doesn't make any sense. You can't sit him down, right? This is kind of like, this is not as bad, but this is like a Deshaun Watson type of deal, right? Where your quarterback's just not playing well. You have a pretty good team. You have a really good team. To be fair, your defense is great. You have great offensive weapons. Your offensive line is not horrible. You have an awesome running back. Your head coach is right? Yeah. But your quarterback is holding you back. So what do you do there? Well, what do you man, oh man, the Falcons are in trouble, dude. I don't think it's smart to sit them because of the whole contract. But if you're going towards the end of the season, and if you have no shot in the playoffs, then you sit him down.
I'm iffy on this thing, you know? Like, those stats are horrible, and it's not what you paid him to come here and do.
Yeah.
You had a roster that you felt like you could have won with last year, but you were held back by your poor quarterback play. You got rid of that guy, and you brought in a veteran of this league who's done it before, never won a Super Bowl, hasn't had a whole lot of luck in the playoffs, but has been a regular season warrior, basically. Has been put up the stats, gotten their team wins, and been a good quarterback for a long time. That is very underrated. And you bring him in here, and you think with the division you're in, you're a shoo-in to win that division. A shoo-in. And you just haven't gotten that at all from Kirk Cousins, the Falcons. It's been shaky all year long. There's been good games, and there's been bad games, and there's been in-between games. But in the past 4 games, he's looked absolutely awful. You can blame it on all different pieces, probably. The coaching, you can blame it on maybe the other offensive players not getting open or not blocking well for him. It can't all be on the quarterback all the time. But this is a lot on him. He is the highest paid person in that building, and he's not playing well at all. The Falcons should be easily on top of the division right now, probably even close to clinching it. And right now, they're sitting at second to the Buccaneers, who are 7-6 right now. They're 6-7. I really think that if this is any other scenario where you didn't have him signed up for the next 4 years, you would sit this guy and start Michael Penix, who you drafted very high in the first round, and see what you got and try to maybe move on for the future. But I think there's such a crappy scenario where they have no choice but to continue starting Kirk Cousins and hoping it'll just work out. And I forget if he has no trade clause or not, because I know he's always had those in his contract somehow, because I don't know who his agent is, but they're great at getting him some of the best contracts ever in the NFL. But I don't see a way out of this currently. No one's going to take his contract if you sit him, because then you don't even want him. So no one's going to trade for him. And if you release him after this year, I would have to look at what is the dead cap next year. So if you cut him after this year, you have 65 million in dead cap. 65, and you say 25,000 on the cap, but it's not a whole lot, really. That's not something you can easily just take on. I think they have to continue starting him, unfortunately. It sucks, but they put themselves in this position, and they're going to have to write it out. But any other scenario, this quarterback gets benched. Just how it works.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know what they're going to do because they wasted a draft pick, too, because you don't bench them.
Yep.
You don't play your rookie.
That could have been an offensive lineman, defensive lineman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing somebody to help your team right now, and he's currently just sitting on the bench. Now, no like fault at Michael Penix. The same scenario with the Packers where everyone was saying, Jordan Love could have been a player on this team that could have propelled them to win a Super Bowl when they were so close in so many playoff games. Jordan Love could have been a player on the field helping. Same thing with Michael Penix. And that's not Jordan Love's fault. He was just picked by a team. He's doing his best he can. Michael Penix could be a good quarterback like Jordan Love turned out to be. But right now, he's not helping the team at all, other than being maybe hopefully a good teammate in the quarterback room, etc. But he's not helping the team on the field right now. And that is a really bad scenario when you have good pieces on your roster. You can win with this team. You can win a division with this team. It's possible. It's doable. But with the quarterback play they're getting right now, it's not happening.
No.
It's not.
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, that's all we got for Overreaction Monday this week, guys. We are getting closer and closer to this playoff scenarios. So you make sure you guys stay tuned for everything. Make sure you catch us tomorrow. Me and Vince will be live for the Bengals and Cowboys game. Very, very exciting, very riveting. We got two teams battling it off to see who makes the playoffs, So make sure you guys stay tuned for that one. And then we will be live on Thursday, most likely just me that day, I think, because AJ has some responsibilities. So he will not be, he's running away really, to watch the 49ers-Rams game. He doesn't want to show up for it. But make sure you guys stay tuned for Fantasy Live on Tuesday. You are currently gearing up for the playoffs right now. Right now, you're finding out if you're going to make the playoffs or not. You need to know everything fantasy-wise in order to win your division, win your fantasy league. So stay tuned in for Tuesday. And until next time, guys, always hit that like button, subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for everything NSP, and then leave a comment down below if you disagree with me and AJ's overreactions, okay? But thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. And until next time, keep on grinding.